this video, we'll be comparing Walt Disney World to the Universal Orlando Resort to see which of the two is better. Of course, this is incredibly subjective, and since they're so different, there's no easy way to compare them. Regardless, I'll be putting them head to head in 15 different categories from the rides to the pricing. With a total of 6 theme parks, 3 water parks, and so much more, let's find out which Orlando resort is superior. Let's start off with dark rides. These are typically indoor, highly themed attractions that are scattered throughout these parks. When it comes to standout rides, Universal Orlando has 2 of my favorites. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is in the running for my favorite dark ride of all time, with colorful theming, great humor, and a surprising amount of thrill. They also have Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, an innovative dark ride that can't be found anywhere but the Universal parks. However, from there's not a ton of standouts. Sure, they do have Revenge of the Mummy and Escape from Gringotts, but it could be argued that those 2 are a part of the next category, roller coasters. Even if we do include those 2, Disney has a lineup that's hard to beat. There's classics like Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, along with incredible new additions like Avatar, Flight of Passage, and Rise of the Resistance. Not only that, but their supporting attractions are solid too. While they aren't massive standouts, rides like Navi River Journey and Star Tours really help to flesh out Disney's lineup of attractions. In terms of smaller, supporting attractions, I don't think Universal really compares. Not to mention, Universal has Fast and Furious Supercharged, while Disney doesn't have a dark ride nearly as bad as that. Of course, I still love many of Universal's dark rides, but even if we do include Mummy and Gringotts, I think Disney has to take the point here. Next up, let's talk roller coasters. As you might expect, this is an easy category to decide. While Disney does have some great coasters, Universal's lineup is on a whole other level. Revenge of the Mummy is the best ride at Universal Studios, and Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is a perfect family roller coaster. However, when it comes to roller coasters, nothing tops Jurassic World Velocicoaster, which is easily the greatest coaster I have ever been on. Again, Disney does have some fantastic rides like Space Mountain and the more recent Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, but if you want a great roller coaster, you have to visit Universal Orlando. They easily get the point here. Now, let's take a look at the flat rides. These are fairly basic cloned attractions that can be found at theme parks around the world. Universal has a handful of these rides, with Stormforce Accelatron, most of Seuss Landing, and Kang and Kodos' Twirl and Hurl. In terms of quantity, however, Disney just can't be beat. Dumbo the Flying Elephant is a classic flat ride, so much so that they had to clone it 3 different times. Apart from that, you have the Mad Tea Party, Alien Swirling Saucers, and Prince Charming's Regal Carousel to round out the lineup. Since these rides are so simple, I wouldn't call anything a standout between the 2 resorts, but because of how much more they have, I think Disney has to take the point here. Another category that seems like an easy win is kids rides. This is something that Universal has been focusing on a lot lately, with their latest attraction VillainCon, Minion Blast, and upcoming additions like DreamWorks Kids Zone and Isle of Berk at Epic Universe. Despite that, as of today, Disney is still the king of kids rides. So many of their attractions are fun for all ages, without many of the restrictions that Universal has to put on some of their more thrilling dark rides. While Universal nails it on the thrill, Disney certainly gets the point here for kids. For our final ride-based category, let's talk about water rides. Considering the intense Florida heat, this is an extremely important category for any resort in the area. Walt Disney World has a surprisingly meager selection right now. With their headlining attraction, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, not opening until later in 2024, the most they have right now are rides like Kali River Rapids and Pirates of the Caribbean. Universal, in comparison, has 3 of the best water rides on the planet. Jurassic Park River Adventure, Dudley Do-Ride's Ripsaw Falls, and Popeye and Bluto's Bilge-Rat Barges are all fantastic, getting guests soaked from head to toe. Even when Tiana does open, I don't think Disney beats this lineup. While the Disney water rides are fun, none get you nearly as wet as Universal's offerings. That may be a pro for some, but when it comes to water rides, I think the amount you get wet should be considered a positive. Not only that, but Universal's rides are more thrilling and fun. For this category, Universal easily grabs the point. While we're on the topic of water rides, let's head over to the water parks at these resorts. Walt Disney World has 2 of them, Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon, although lately there's been a bit of a catch. For the past few years, Disney has only been keeping one of these open throughout the year, switching between the 2 throughout the season. That means they essentially only have one water park, although the variety of attractions is a bit wider than what Universal offers. However, when it comes to Universal's water park, it is truly next level. Volcano Bay is the single best water park I have ever been to, with immersive theming, incredible rides, and a unique virtual queue system that lets you have fun while you wait. The praise for this park seems to be universal, no pun intended, but from what I've heard about the Disney water parks, they can be a bit outdated. Still fun for sure, but if I had to choose, I'd visit Volcano Bay any day, even if both Disney parks were open. Universal gets the point here. Now, let's look at the entertainment on offer. Entertainment mostly consists of shows, whether that be random pop-ups or more detailed stage shows. Universal has some solid options, with the Jason Bourne Stuntacular and the Horror Makeup Show being two standouts. Apart from that, however, they mostly just have smaller pop-up shows, along with the occasional live entertainment. Disney, on the other hand, has a lot more variety. There's so many live stage shows throughout their 4 parks, along with brilliant and massive nightly spectaculars. This is where Disney really pulls ahead. While Universal seems to be prepping a nightly spectacular for Universal Studios and Epic Universe, right now they basically have nothing. Because of that and the rest of their lineup, Disney earns the point here. Next up, let's talk food. For a while, theme park food used to be seen as notoriously bad. Now, larger theme parks like Disney and Universal have been trying to change that sentiment. Universal's recent offerings have been great, with Minions Cafe potentially being my favorite quick service at any theme park. For their older quick service offerings though, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some places like Burger Digs and Wimpy's are pretty solid, but many places still have a bit of a standard and mediocre menu. Disney, on the other hand, has worked to improve a lot of their older offerings. There's still some mediocrity, like much of Hollywood studios, but they do have plenty of fantastic stuff to balance it out. EPCOT, for example, is filled to the brim with incredible food. World Showcase has some mind-blowing options, from the buffet in Germany to the desserts in France. Even Future World has some great stuff, with Connections Cafe and Space 220 being surprising standouts. Basically, EPCOT makes this category an easy win for Walt Disney World. I'm happy Universal's recent offerings have been improving, but I do hope they work on the menus for their older locations as well. Now, let's head into an aspect of theme parks many don't consider, the events. Parks like Universal Studios and EPCOT are known for their seasonal events, from Mardi Gras to the Food and Wine Festival. While I love many of the events at both of these resorts, there's none that I love more than Halloween Horror Nights. I visited it for the first time in 2023, and it absolutely blew me away. It's basically its own mini theme park open for a month or two within Universal Studios. The haunts are immaculately themed and utterly terrifying, which explains why Disney doesn't have an event that rivals this one. They do have their own kid-friendly Halloween event, but Halloween Horror Nights is just next level due to its impressive scale. For events, Universal grabs another point. What makes these two resorts truly shine is their theming. Both Universal and Disney have some incredible themed lands. Diagon Alley is easily my favorite at Universal, with an immaculate amount of detail hidden around every corner. That land is tied for first place overall though, as Pandora at Animal Kingdom is just as impressive. The beauty of nature is captured perfectly in this artificial landscape, which may look even better at night than it does during the day. From here on though, I do think I lean towards Disney in terms of theming. Hogsmeade, Jurassic Park, and the Lost Continent are gorgeous lands, and Universal does have some very well-themed rides. However, I think on average, Disney still outdoes them. Nearly all of Animal Kingdom is stunning, and likely the most beautiful theme park in Florida. EPCOT has World Showcase, which is full of that same detail I talked about with my favorite theme park lands. Galaxy's Edge is pretty cool too, although the rest of Hollywood Studios is admittedly hit or miss. Magic Kingdom is equally as hit or miss, but when Disney does something great, they really do it great. Universal does have some fantastic stuff, especially their more recent additions, but I can't deny that Disney, on average, is nicer to look at. The point here goes to Disney. Now, let's talk about the shopping experiences. For this category, I'll be primarily focusing on the shopping districts in these two resorts, but I'll also keep in mind the general shopping experience. Universal City Walk is pretty nice, with some high-end restaurants, a handful of clubs, and plenty of other experiences. Admittedly, when it comes to shopping, there's not much here apart from the Universal Studios store. Along with that, the theming feels a bit outdated, some restaurants aren't great, and the movie theater is fairly mediocre. In comparison, Disney Springs feels much nicer and larger. It can be argued that the theming is a little boring, but for what is essentially just an outlet mall, I think it's pretty nice. What's also nice is the variety of shopping options. There's so much Disney merchandise here, it is unbelievable. That goes for their parks as well, with Disney taking full advantage of their library of IP. When you pair that with the restaurants, experiences, and great movie theater, Disney has to take the point in this category. Another important part of these two resorts are their hotels. While Disney certainly has more hotels, the quality ranges from pretty great to incredibly mediocre. For the most part, the premium offerings are pretty solid from where I visited. It's the less expensive hotels that bring Disney down in this category. Resorts like Pop Century and Art of Animation feel pretty cheap and far from the most premium experience. It can be argued that makes them fun for kids, but I feel the architecture and room design is fairly boring. Universal, on the other hand, feels a lot more consistent. They have a solid range of options based on price point, but more importantly, each of those resorts feels nice to stay at. Their least expensive option, the Endless Summer Resort, is honestly very nice, and most of the time stays significantly cheaper than the least expensive Disney option. Their more premium hotels are nice as well, with Portofino Bay and Royal Pacific being pretty stunning. The one complaint I have with Universal's hotels is that a large majority of them have the same beach-inspired theming. Hopefully that's something they'll fix with Epic Universe. Otherwise, despite the difference in quantity, I think the quality of the Universal hotels earns them the point in this category. Now, let's discuss the price for these two resorts. On its surface, it may seem like theme park tickets have fairly similar pricing between the two of them. However, if you dig deeper, you'll see that Disney parks are often more expensive than Universal. It's not a huge difference, but it can be significant enough on certain days to sway you to visit Universal instead. The other costs are a bit more comparable. On average, I'd say the food is a bit more expensive at Disney, but otherwise, most things seem to be a tie. Considering the park tickets are what you need to get in though, I'd say Universal takes a point here. Now on to the penultimate category, which I'm calling add-ons. These are additional perks you can add on to your park ticket to make your experience a bit better. I'll be splitting this into 4 mini categories to make it a bit easier to follow. First off, skip the line passes. I could honestly make an entire video on this alone, but I'll try to simplify it down to a few sentences. Disney has something called Genie Plus, which allows guests to make a reservation to skip the line for one ride at a time at their parks. As an example, you could get a reservation for Space Mountain at 8:45 a.m., but you wouldn't get your next skip the line reservation until after you rode Space Mountain. Some rides aren't included and you have to pay for those individually, but otherwise this service can cost anywhere from $15 to $35. Universal, on the other hand, has their Express Pass system, which is much more straightforward. Essentially, you just buy the Express Pass for the day you're going, and you can skip the line on basically any ride you'd like. A small selection of rides aren't included, like Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, but otherwise, this is a pretty straightforward system. The problem is that the cost can often skyrocket all the way up to $300, more than twice the amount of a park ticket. Because of that massive cost difference, it's hard to call a winner here. Disney's option is far cheaper, but Universal's option is basically a guaranteed entry to every ride. All that is to say that I could really go either way here, making this mini category a tie. The next mini category is annual passes. These are passes that grant you access to the parks for a full year. Both of these resorts have 4 tiers of passes, with Disney only allowing the least expensive 3 to be sold to Florida residents. That alone puts them at a disadvantage, but when you add the annoyance of making park reservations and the higher cost for the Disney passes, I think Universal has to take this mini category. The third mini category up is the interactive elements. These are additional physical add-ons that you can use throughout the resort. For a while, Disney was known for their Magic Bands, a wearable band that acted as a guest ticket, room key, and even payment device. These are still in use at the resort, but aren't nearly as prominent as they once were. For a time, they were shipped for free to all park guests, and now you have to pay for them separately. While they were revolutionary for their time, a lot of their functionality has been replaced by smartphones, making them a bit less useful than they once were. There is the new Magic Band Plus, but it doesn't add much more except for a lackluster interactive experience at Galaxy's Edge and some interactive statues throughout the 4 parks. Universal, on the other hand, has wands, which work at both Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley. I think this alone is a pretty huge addition, and something I see guests gravitate towards whenever I visit the Wizarding World. Not to mention, there will be even more interactive experiences added soon with Epic Universe. While Universal seems to be pushing for more interactive elements in their parks, Disney seems to be phasing them out more and more. Overall, Universal barely wins this mini category. Finally, the last mini category is photos. Both of these resorts have photo experiences throughout the park, whether it be on a ride or meeting a character. I don't interact with these too much, but from what I've seen, Disney's feels more built out than Universal's does. There are more rides that support it, and more meet and greets throughout the resort. With that, Disney wins this mini category. However, that still means Universal takes the category as a whole, giving them the point for add-ons and tying up the game. That leads us to the final category of this video, the Miscellaneous category. Like our last category, this will be split up into 5 mini categories, but this time they'll be much more rapid fire. First up, transportation. While Universal does have a great bus and water taxi system, the transportation at Walt Disney World is next level. There's the monorail, the Skyliner, buses, boats, and so much more. Disney may not have the Hogwarts Express, but they still remain the winner of this mini category. Next, let's talk about the staff. Both of these resorts have some of the best and most helpful staff anywhere in the world, so this has to be a tie for me. Cleanliness is another tie, as I haven't had issues with either resort when it comes to anything like that. Parking does have a clear winner though, with Universal's garage system allowing more guests to park their cars in the shade instead of out in the sun. It's much less of a walk too, so although Disney has recently added their tram service back to all 4 parks, Universal has to grab the point here. Finally, let's talk accessibility. As much as I love Universal's rides, they are notorious for not being the most accessible out there. Disney has much less restrictions on a lot of their rides, although this has been a problem for both resorts in recent years. Still, that mini category goes to Disney, which makes them the winner of this category and the overall park battle. Despite Disney taking the win, keep in mind that you should only visit the resort that excels in the stuff you love. If roller coasters are your thing, maybe Universal will be the resort for you. In fact, as someone who could care less for shopping and entertainment, Universal is more the resort for me. Don't take this video as definitive proof of Disney being better. Like I said before, it's all subjective. Even so, congrats to Disney for winning the overall park battle. This was an insanely close race, so the tides may shift after Epic Universe opens in 2025. Until then, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rematch, and check out this video ranking every park at Walt Disney World. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.